My name is Skip Rutherford. I'm Dean of the Clinton School, and welcome to this special occasion. I must say that I knew Freeman McKendra when he was young. I didn't remember him being, quite as young as that. But Freeman, I will say that you have matured well, and I will say that he is. I love his kids, Fatima, Freeman, and Fred, and he's done a great job and continues to do a great job. So thank you, Freeman. For those of you that are here for the first time, this Clinton School is the nation's first to have a master's degree in public service. And it is a unique program. We have several of our students and alumni who are here today, been very involved in AmeriCorps VISTA related programs. In 2006, one of our students in our first year class, Joe Ballard, was working with Georgia at our house. And Joe came up with the idea of our house applying to be a VISTA volunteer site. And Georgia made that happen. She's made a lot happen at our house, many good things. But that volunteer program, that effort partnership, started in 2007, continues today. Over 100 VISTA volunteers have come to our house. It's been a great Clinton School partnership, Georgia. We love working with our house, and we thank you for all you do for the homeless in this city. Now, you are in an 1899 passenger train station that survived as a passenger train station until 1967. It had a varied life until the Clinton School came in 2004. And so I invite you to look at the building, but I also would like to say that this building is now the oldest LEED certified building in Arkansas. And it proves that environmental protection, historic preservation, economic development, and higher education can work together. So we're proud of that effort as well. I want to thank our volunteers. I know we're here with VISTA volunteers, but the Clinton School has a volunteer corps that is absolutely fantastic. We couldn't do these programs without them. And finally, if you haven't had the AmeriCorps VISTA cookies in the back, grab one. We're glad to have you. Thank you for coming to the Clinton School. Happy birthday, VISTA.
You can say that my time in VISTA has taken multiple roles. First of all, I sort of feel like I grew up in VISTA because my mother, Mrs. Evangeline Brown, who raised me, was a VISTA supervisor in Chico County down in Dermot and around that area. Dr. Stella Morris, currently the program manager for the Comprehensive Homeless Center of Excellence at Central Arkansas Veterans Healthcare System. I joined VISTA in 1977, in April of 1977, as a local volunteer here in Little Rock. During that time, I worked in youth and community development, primarily in what was then the Highland Courts area, as well as the Granite Mountain areas of Little Rock. Did a lot of work with teens, did a lot of work with community development, just working with the residents of those two areas, just trying to develop the areas themselves, as well as working with the families and the children that were in those areas. After the 4 years as a volunteer, working at the local level along with those volunteers that came in at the national level, I entered the VA as a non-competitive employee in 1981. But my time as a VISTA volunteer, I think, was so ingrained in me, and the things that I had learned as part of that involvement at the local and national level sort of gave me the impetus for moving in the direction that our program here with homeless veterans ultimately moved. That was that when we came in 1987 and started working on issues with veterans who were homeless, there were so many gaps in services. There were so many areas that had not been addressed. There were areas that could not be addressed by the Department of Veterans Affairs because at that time we were considered, and of course we weren't a department at that time, but by the Veterans Administration at that time. So I was able to take what I had learned during those 4 years at the end of the 70s and be able to use that to develop this project in the 80s, where I had gone from being a local volunteer to actually being a VISTA supervisor. The project that we developed here in Little Rock was one of the last coming out of the old VISTA era. After we developed the first project within the VA system here in Little Rock that dealt with meeting the needs of veterans who were homeless, subsequently there was a national move to develop VISTA projects within homeless programs that are in VAs nationwide. A significant experience, I think, to be able to see it from multiple levels, both as a teen during the time that my mother was VISTA supervisor in Chico County, then at the end of the decade of the 70s when I was a local volunteer, and then in the 80s when I was a VISTA supervisor. So I guess you could say that VISTA's in my heart because I've lived it, I've experienced it on multiple levels. I have seen the benefit. I think that it was a time where we were ready for transition, and because of that transition, VISTA has been able to continue growing and developing and is at a point where it's highly sought after. I am really pleased with the transition. I'm really pleased with the lengths, the strength that it continues to demonstrate as a program, and proud to have been a part.
The whole VISTA, well, we started meeting in our home in about 1986, 87 to kind of look at what we might do as community members about the drug problem among our teenagers. My name is Betty Heron. I'm from Little Rock, Arkansas. I had gone to a panel discussion at Hall High School where they talked about numbers of kids that were involved with drugs and mainly alcohol, and I was just shocked. And I had served on the Little Rock School Board, and so I was really involved with education and young people and felt like, you know, alcohol was something that really kept a young person from reaching their goals and their potential. And we were given our first office. We were all volunteers, but the Anthony family gave us their little preschool building on Elm Street. It used to be their family home, and that was our first office. And we just kind of started meeting. We had a board. We put a board together. We filed our nonprofit papers and became a nonprofit organization. And through all of that, looking for resources that could help us. I don't know exactly how I met Bob Torstead, but I am so grateful and Opal because they truly led me through the process of becoming involved with the VISTA program. The first time Bob came and met in my office and he said, I want you to write a VISTA grant. And I said, what's a VISTA? And I had no idea. And thank goodness he persevered and he helped us with the application, and we submitted the grant and we were awarded a VISTA grant. I think my first VISTA was a 50-some-year-old housewife who had raised her children and was looking to do something meaningful with her life. And then the other one that came at the same time was a 18-year-old brilliant young man who just didn't want to go to college but needed to do something, and so they were our first VISTA volunteers. Well, I will say that VISTA volunteers brought us a lot of, the young people brought us a lot of good energy. They were talented, they knew computers. Computers were just hitting the scene, and you know, we didn't know much about computers, but these young people coming out of college certainly did. And so recruiting people, we went out of state. I had someone from Wisconsin, one of my daughter's friends who graduated with her from the University of Wisconsin, came down here and spent a year, and I think she met her husband here, who was also a VISTA volunteer with another program. But the one that really stands out is I was so frustrated I couldn't find a VISTA volunteer, and I called Bob and Opal one day and I just said, I can't find anybody. And so Bob said, call this number. Well, it was out of state, and I didn't realize that where it was. I didn't even ask, and I called and talked to this woman on the phone, and she was coming down to Little Rock, and so we set up a time that she could come in and visit with me. And to make a long story short, I had Miss America 1948 as a VISTA volunteer for 2 years. Bee Waring was wonderful. We did our red ribbon campaign. She set up the order system, worked through all of that. As the man said that kept up with our orders, when she leaves, I don't know what you're going to do because I don't understand her system, but it works beautifully. And Bee Waring, Miss America 1948, said it was the best 2 years of her life. And so that means so much, and it meant so much to us at the time. The most satisfying thing is that I think most VISTA volunteers felt that their time in Arkansas and working with us was most valuable.
Good afternoon. It's good to see you guys here today. I'm excited. Some housekeeping real quick. For our current members and for our alumni members, we have a table set up over here and it's labeled. We have some parting gifts for you. So before you leave, if you're a current member or an alumni, please go to this table. And they're marked and somebody will be there to pass them out to you. Some of you know me by name because you talked to me on the phone. I'm Derek Cromwell. I'm the state program officer here in Arkansas. Some of you have met me, and some of you have no idea who I am, but that's okay. We're not here to celebrate me. We're here to celebrate VISTA. We couldn't have 50-year celebration without members, and that's why we're here. I want to do something fun real quick. I'm going to call up a decade. If you served or if you were on project staff for that decade, please stand up so we can recognize you. I'm going to start with the 1960s. Anybody here that served in the 60s? Wow, great. All right, do we have anybody who served or were on project staff in the 70s? Okay, the 80s. All right. The 90s. Yay! All right. Okay, since we're 2 decades almost into the 2000s, I'm gonna go 2000 to 2009. And then last but not least, 2009 to currently serving. You know, like I said before, we couldn't have this celebration without people who dedicated their lives, who sacrificed to serve those who didn't have. So we truly appreciate you. What I want to do now is offer a moment of silence. We've had hundreds, if not thousands, of VISTAs serve in the state of Arkansas who are no longer with us and unable to be here today. So I would like to offer a moment of silence for those who served, who gave their love and life to this program but aren't here to celebrate that. Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Tara Rice, and I am AmeriCorps VISTA alumni of 1999. I became a VISTA at the state office at Arkansas Literacy Councils in the year of 1999. My VISTA experience in the year of 1999 was a really good experience. Not only was I allowed to travel to a state that I've never been, but also I was given the opportunity to come with other people that had some of the same visions that I had, and that was to serve our community. VISTA represents volunteer in service to America, and that's what I wanted to be a part of. I have an aunt that is 75 years old, and she was a VISTA in her young age before she went to college. And her experience as being a VISTA was totally opposite than my experience, because when I went to PSO, it wasn't in the 70s, we're in the 90s, and so things have changed. But also, a lot of the tools and strategies that they allowed us to use was going to be able to help us benefit our community. And so not only did I take away a sense of pride and ownership of being AmeriCorps VISTA, but also the things that I learned at our PSO training allowed me to apply those same skills to the programs that I was a part of. And that was Arkansas Literacy Councils, which was the state literacy headquarters for all of the literacy councils in the state of Arkansas, which I was a VISTA leader. And then after I left Arkansas Literacy Council, after serving a year of service, I started Pulaski County Learning Center, which is located in North Little Rock. And because of those particular skills and strategies and ideas that they planted in myself and other VISTA members, we were able to come back to our community and provide those needed services. The needed services in my areas was literacy for adults that were 18 years and older that read 5th grade and below, and for school-aged children that were K through 5th grade. And so over the 16 years that I have been a director of Pulaski County Learning Center, I have impacted over 1,200 adults and over 1,000 or so children that were part of our after-school programs and our summer feeding programs. And being a part of AmeriCorps VISTA has allowed me to do those wonderful and needed programs in my community. And because of that, I am grateful and honored to be alumni of AmeriCorps VISTA program in the state of Arkansas.
My name is Zach Hale, and I am originally from Huntsville, Alabama. I've been living in Arkansas for a while now, since 2008. I came out here to go to Hendrix College. After I graduated, I ended up looking for ways that I could, find work or build my skills, do something with my life after college. And I had a friend who was doing an AmeriCorps VISTA year and recommended it to me as this, great way to get involved in the community. And I was a little skeptical at first because, it's a big sacrifice to give a year of your life to that kind of service with the compensation. We'll say it's not all monetary. So I ended up working with Our House, an organization here in Little Rock, doing AmeriCorps VISTA for a year. And it was completely transformative. it gave me not just experience working with populations that maybe don't get the most attention or access, but also let me see how service works, you know, from the perspective of everything from funding to the amount of time, the emotional component to it. And it was challenging, and but ultimately so satisfying that I thought I should pursue this. I should go further. Now I'm working towards 2 degrees, a law degree at the Bowen Law School in Little Rock, and then also a master's in public service at the Clinton School here in town as well. And the master's in public service program just ties so perfectly into my experience. It's like they should require people to do AmeriCorps before they start in that program, because it just is the kind of academic and developmental component of what you learn professionally through AmeriCorps VISTA. I really kind of repurposed my life after my VISTA experience, and I think for the better. I was always kind of interested in helping people, but that's so broad, and I think that everyone has a sense that they might be helping people in their job, and in a lot of ways people are. But I think AmeriCorps VISTA and AmeriCorps broadly, all the programs really show you what it means to have an impact on somebody's life and be able to measure that impact, be able to talk about that with other people, share the stories that you have, and ultimately give more than just 1 year of your time. So I think it's pretty amazing.
Good afternoon. My name is Opal Sims, and I'm the State Program Director for Arkansas. It's so wonderful to see all of you. You know, this has made me really reflect. I've been around a long time. I started when I was 10, so... but it's just great to see everyone. I'm so happy that you took time out from your busy Saturday afternoon to come and share with us. And it's all about you. And while I'm here, I just want to thank all of you for everything that you've given, for being a part of VISTA, of AmeriCorps. You know, so many incredible things have happened in this state over the last 30 plus years that I've been affiliated with the program that, you know, I will cherish always. So thank you. Have been given the duty, and I'm, you know, very honored to introduce our speaker for this afternoon, Paul Monteiro. Paul is formerly the director of AmeriCorps VISTA, the federal anti-poverty program that was launched in 1965 as the domestic counterpoint of the Peace Corps. Paul is a graduate of, well, actually, let me back up. Paul, from February 2009 until November 2013, Paul was a member of the White House staff and directed engagement with faith-based organizations, anti-poverty groups, and Arab American communities. He is a graduate of the University of Maryland with a BA in History and the Howard University School of Law. While in law school, Paul served as the Marshall Brennan Fellow and taught constitutional law to middle school students from low-income backgrounds. He later accepted a position with the DC law firm before beginning to work for Senator Barack Obama on Capitol Hill in 2006. Paul later served as the National Director of Religious Affairs on the Obama for AmeriCorps on the Obama for America campaign, where he helped lead outreach to religious communities and faith-based organizations. I'm going to share something with you all. I had a complete meltdown because about 2 weeks after I invited Paul to come down and be our speaker, we got an announcement that Paul was leaving the corporation and would no longer be the director of VISTA. He got a new position with the Department of Labor. The Department of Justice. And he's currently the service advisor for community relations service for the U.S. Department of Justice. And I was really happy that he got the job. And I sat there for a minute and I said, well, should I email him and say congratulations, or should I just email him and say, what? So I ended up with a compromise. I emailed him and told him congratulations, and then I threw in, maybe we can work out something with the corporation and the Department of Justice for you to come and speak to the group at the 50th event. So I think it may have taken a day or so, and he emailed me back and he said, I think we can do it. He said, when he first accepted, he said he was just honored. And long story short, he said he was honored, he was going to do it. And I am just so excited that he's here today. And the next horse you'll hear will be Paul Monteiro.
Thank you very much, Opal. And can we have another round of applause for your state director? And a round of applause for Derek, who's helped facilitate this whole visit. Thank you. And to Dean Rutherford, thank you very much for the kind hospitality, allowing us to celebrate the 50th here, Dean Rutherford. And the former commission ED, Al Snyder, is here. Let's have a round of applause for Mr. Snyder. Right here in the third row. So I'm sure you expected somebody younger as the director of VISTA. A lot of people freak out when I show up. So I'm getting used to it. And it's a high-class problem. I've seen some people with the opposite problem. So I'm thankful. I think I said I'm drinking whatever Opal's drinking because she just doesn't age at all. But yes, I did commit to speaking here, and it was an honor then when I accepted. It's an honor now to come to the Clinton School and talk about the wonderful legacy of this program we're celebrating. Literally 51 years to the day that President Johnson commissioned that first group of 20-something VISTAs, December 12, 1964. So we're meeting here at a moment, I think, that in terms of monuments, not that VISTA will ever have a sort of a granite or a marble, structure. This is the monument to VISTA. The lives that started committing to a year of service back then, continuing with all of you in this room today, and the alums that connect then and now here in this room. And it's a special program that I was privileged to lead for about 2 years. And even though I have moved over to the Department of Justice, I see the missions as linked in many ways. A program that I'm working at now started at the same time VISTA was started to deal with issues of community trust and community engagement. And I see in many ways that anti-poverty mission as linking the two. Why have we spent the last year lifting up this program? Certainly, the series of events we launched in February of 2015 in Washington, D.C., kicking off a series of state events all across the country, wrapping up in a sense only last week in Austin, Texas at the Lyndon B. Johnson Presidential Library. Certainly, it's to talk about the points that VISTA's put on the board. I challenge people, show me another program anywhere, public sector, private sector, anywhere, where you take a $93 million investment and return $210 million, because that's what VISTA is given in a year and what you raise in a year. Show me another program anywhere with a core of less than 8,000 people that are mobilizing 1.3 million volunteers. And here in this state, 77 VISTAs, raising $5.2 million and engaging more than 8,000 volunteers. That is a story that needs to be told and told and told again, because you do hear people say, what is VISTA, or what is a VISTA? But I always sort of joke that it's one of the rare federal government programs. The more people learn about it, the more they like it. Usually it's the opposite. The more people hear about federal programs, they get nervous or scared. So one of the themes we've lifted up over the course of this year is how VISTA has, not hypothetically, but in a real and tangible way, been the quote-unquote seed capital for some of the nonprofits serving this state and every other state in the country. How many times you can go to a nonprofit that tells you, I used to have 1 employee, 2 employees. We served 10 people, 20 people, because that's all we could do before VISTA. And VISTA took us to a whole other level and helped us not only meet the needs that were there in that community, but meet other needs, knowing people usually don't just need one set of supports. It's a holistic approach. So showing how VISTA has been that seed capital for nonprofits to help them scale over the last 50 years. At the LBJ Library last week in Austin for the VISTA 50th event, we were really blown away by the reflections of one of the members who served here in Arkansas from 1969 to 70 at the Lee County Co-op Medical Center, a very small clinic that was making an incredible difference and continues to this day as a clinic to meet the needs of communities that would otherwise not have service. And how that very small clinic started because she went down there to serve at a nutritional program, helping people learn how to eat healthy, and seeing how, after engaging a young mother, an expectant mother, and seeing how that woman was sneaking behind her house to eat dirt because there just wasn't enough food. And unfortunately, not even in a malnourishment situation, the woman died in childbirth. And seeing how that, as much as we're talking about eating healthy and everything else, there's a whole subsistence level of need that's not being met here. That she worked with others, at VISTA to set up the first sort of cohort that grew the Lee County Co-op Medical Center from a 3-person organization to what it is today. And talking about how they were blessed by Ollie Neal coming around as their first administrator. Someone who knew poverty intimately himself, being one of 13 kids, and because of the experiences he had, some good teachers and other supports, playing a great leadership role in scaling the Lee County Clinic and going on to having a great career, obviously, in the legal profession. So also lifting up, as much as we're talking about the seed capital piece, that transformative experience piece, and you saw it through a lot of the videos, how people talk about their year of service, knowing it's a year of sacrifice, and for those that served at least a year, but looking backwards, saying it was one of the best years of their life to that point. Sure, it was hard, sure, it was a sacrifice, they weren't doing it for the money, but it was one of the best years they could have had, helping people that were their neighbors, or not even their neighbors, people they didn't know at all, and lifting up examples of how, like Ollie Neal, someone like Ed Needler, someone who's not a household name, but this man has argued more cases before the United States Supreme Court than any lawyer in the country. He works for the Solicitor General of the United States at the Department of Justice. His name's Ed Needler. How serving as a VISTA in the late 60s, working with migrant farm workers, convinced him something is wrong, and he had to do something about it. So after serving as a VISTA, went on to law school and a career in the legal profession, trying to help people and using the mechanism of the law to create an equal playing field for people regardless of their economic status. I'm still trying to figure out how what this guy went on to do connects with anti-poverty, but George R.R. Martin, the guy who wrote the Game of Thrones series on HBO or the books, 2 terms as a VISTA outside Chicago, working at a legal assistance project with battered women, seeing how these women were coming to these lawyers in a crisis situation, not having a place to stay, afraid to go home, not knowing where they and their kids would be able to go, getting restraining orders, getting them in place in temporary housing, getting them connected to the job market. And George grew up in New Jersey, knowing poverty very well, serving 2 terms as a VISTA in Chicago and going on. Again, I'm still trying to figure out how dragons connect to poverty, but I'm sure there's a metaphor. But speaking with him and how he talks about, in a country like this, coming from the little he came from, having the success he's had, you have to give back. There's no other choice. And the opportunity he was given, he has to pay that forward to help other people. So many individual examples of how the VISTA year of service was transformative and helped them see the world in a different way that they never forgot. And how they never stopped serving. That's another theme we lifted up throughout 2015 of how VISTAs, after they served their year or 2 at their service site, their formal term of service ended, but they never stopped serving. They found other ways to serve. They became social workers or teachers, or started their own nonprofit, went into public service, into government at any level. And because once their eyes were open to the need and the special obligation they felt to do something about it, you can't close your eyes again. And so lifting up and celebrating the organizations that came out of people that served as VISTA, set up their own shop, or went to work at others. But not simply looking at VISTA in the rearview mirror either. I think that's a danger that sometimes people say, oh, we're 50 years old. Because the flip side of celebrating your 50 years old is you're 50 years old. And what have you done? What are you doing today? And sadly, talking to some alums that feel like, VISTA was around at some point. I thought they went away, though, right? When we launched AmeriCorps, one of our larger public-private partnerships with Bank of America in June of last year, the Associated Press story on the launch referred to VISTA as a now-defunct organization. It's sloppy reporting, but doing all we can to lift up, not only are we still here, again, going back to the numbers I said at the beginning, we're putting points on the board, helping scale some small, medium, and large nonprofits around the country to support our neighbors in need. So not just looking at the last 50 years, but looking at today and the next 50 years. Showing how VISTA is a nimble program, not simply doing the same things we did in 1965, but addressing relevant, felt need today. The work VISTA is doing around the My Brother's Keeper initiative, a need that's not new by any stretch. The newness comes from the sense that you have a president and an administration that's focused on life outcomes for particular communities that have been struggling for decades. The projects that VISTA has in the My Brother's Keeper space, looking at everything from third grade literacy to how ex-offenders are transitioning back into society after paying their debt. The work that VISTAs are doing around new Americans. You have folks coming here for all different reasons, avoiding war, avoiding persecution in different parts of the world. They are here, and they're living in poverty. And unless you have an intervention, they will continue to live in poverty, in segregated societies and living in poverty. The work, the creative new solutions are coming up around veterans' homelessness, where you see exciting shoots of progress where some cities and states have eliminated homelessness among veterans. An achievable, realistic goal because cities and states have shown how you do it, and VISTA is leading the way. The work we're doing around performance measurement, something that sometimes makes people take a nap, but a critical need. And that nonprofits that aren't able to tell their story, not just in heartwarming anecdotes, but in data, how your intervention made a difference. Government, foundations, private funders want to see that. And VISTAs are often leading the way at some nonprofits, helping the nonprofits get on the pathway, knowing it's not a quick thing to set up a performance measurement system, but helping them get on the pathway to tell their story in both ways, anecdote and data. Again, a nimble program that responds to what are the needs of 2015, not simply what did we do in 1965. This is a refresh moment for the program. 50 years is a good point to say what's going well, what's not going so well. What are we doing simply because that's how we've done it all the time? Or what are the things we need to start doing because there is a real and critical need to do it? Looking at our policies, I'm proud to say that in May of this year, this ban on outside employment that said, well, if we find a VISTA working outside of their service hours, at the drugstore, at the pizzeria, at the restaurant, we will fire you. At the same time, where we knew members were getting passive income from other sources, family, relatives, what have you, We said nothing about that. And I think that policy, as well-intentioned as it was, did more to discourage particular communities from being able to serve in this program than anything else. And so I'm proud that in May, even though some people said, well, if you do this, if you let VISTAs have this outside employment, what you'll find is you're undermining the program dramatically. You won't be able to continue because they'll be working as day traders or making a ton of money. They won't really understand what it is to live in poverty. They'll lose the connection with the community. Where after, 7 months of tracking this, we've seen the world didn't end. We track where you work before it's approved. The most common outside employment job that's submitted for approval is server. Because these members are not looking to make $1 million. They're looking to have enough to stay in the program. We were losing people. The number one reason we were losing people was financial hardship. No surprise, right? Thank you, Amen Corner. I appreciate that. It's okay. Thank you. So I'm happy to say in May of this year, we changed the work policy, and VISTAs have now, and we're seeing less than 10% of VISTAs actually taking advantage of it because, again, it's really only meant for those people in that position of, I can't stay unless I can get enough to make it month to month. I want to stay. So looking at our procedures, looking at our programming, looking at our training, I think pre-service orientation, and has been said through the videos and others, used to be 6 weeks. Now we have it down to 2 days, 2.5 days, 3 days. Everyone loves PSO. I love PSO. I simply think that in 2015, with technological sort of tools that just didn't exist 50 years ago, I never understood why we fly people to other states to learn about poverty, why we fly people to other states to train them with people they'll probably never see again to learn about poverty. When you've never seen your site, you've never seen your supervisor, you've never met the people you're going to serve with. So you don't even know the question to ask at PSO. So living in this crazy question of, hey, well, what if we did a virtual touch up front, the do's and don'ts, the Hatch Act, don't do this, don't engage in political activity, X, Y, and Z. Go to your site. And maybe at month 2, we bring you together with people that are in a place where you might see them again, your city, your state, the support system that provides, the context-specific expertise you can share with other people. Month 2, 3 is where we lose most of our members, again, because it's settled in, hey, PSO's over, this is what I signed up for, how much money do I make? And the holidays are here. So I'm going home, and I'm not coming back. So really, why don't we look at bringing people together when they know what they signed up for, they're feeling the press, they're feeling the pressure, and bringing them together to train them in a tailored way. You don't need everything. I think PSO tries to give you everything. In advance, you can tell us of all these things on the training menu, what are the top 5 you really need to go deep on, having been at your site for a little bit? And then we tailor the training accordingly. These are the most popular things the VISTAs in this place have said, we need this. We don't need that. We need this targeted approach. So experimenting with an alternative training model in 2016, unfortunately, I won't be there to see it, but I'm excited to see what happens because I don't think the world will end. I think we'll see maybe there's another way to train. So I'm excited to do that from the outside looking in anyway. And VISTA, at the end of the day, and being from the DC area, I don't feel like I'm offending anybody, but sometimes in DC and maybe other parts of the country too, people boil things down to either or, On the one side, hey, VISTA has been around for 50 years and you still have poverty, so clearly it didn't work, right? That's the argument anyway. When in absolute terms, the poverty rate's down 40% since 1967 when you factor in all of the supports that were built in. So on the one hand, they say, if you simply stop, quote unquote, wasting money on programs like this, that'll solve poverty. So just stop with the safety net and the VISTA programs and things like that. And on the other side, people say, well, the reason you still have poverty is because you never really funded government enough. So put more money into it. And if you really fully fund it, that'll solve this problem of poverty. And regardless of what people think in terms of maybe some in this room or others agree with one side or the other, VISTA for 50 years has shown, I think, an elegant workaround to that debate, where it is local problems, local solutions, often local people, and a federal resource, working together to scale a nonprofit intervention or a municipal government intervention. It's not one or the other. It can be done. It has been done. It's happening right now. So I'd like to call VISTA an elegant workaround to sometimes the false debate that happens. And I think that as much as people are talking about citizenship today, where I'm from and every other place in this country, and they focus on sort of the entitlements that come with citizenship, what you're owed, what you get when you have the title, or who to take that title away from. I can't think of a better example of people that lift up the responsibilities that come with citizenship than a VISTA. Again, somebody who's not looking to get their name in the paper. They're not doing it for the money, I know. They're not doing it so people pat them on the back or the VISTA director comes and says, thank you so much. It's because you feel that obligation to serve your neighbor, however you define neighbor. And that, I think, is the best illustration of citizenship. People day to day walking out their citizenship for a year or more. And that's something that we have to lift up through this anniversary. And I think we've done a good job over the course of 2015. And so as I wrap up, I just want to say, certainly there's a lot of work left to do. And you all here in this state know that better than I ever will, being from outside the state. But one of the books that I recently read, and actually served with the author a little bit on a working group, is Our Kids, a book by Bob Putnam. This is an author up at Harvard. He's written a couple of books, starting with a book called Bowling Alone, looking at sort of the decline of civil society. People just don't join things anymore. Bowling leagues, community groups, X, Y, and Z. His second book, called American Grace, looks at sort of that same trend in the religious context. Religious attendance, congregations, all declining. People don't go in the way they went maybe 30 years ago. But his latest book looks at those trends in the context of poverty. And Our Kids is something he calls the scissors gap. For the kids of parents who, the parents were married, had finished high school and college, were employed when they had the children, the life outcomes, or at least the menu of options for those kids, is pretty expansive. More likely to vote, more likely to graduate high school, go on to college and graduate from there, less likely to be involved in the criminal justice system, X, Y, and Z. But for the kids on the other side of the scissors gap, parents weren't married or hadn't graduated school when they were born or born out of wedlock, the menu of life options for those kids dramatically shorter. And Bob sort of jokes around sometimes in a gallows humor sort of way and sort of saying, well, these kids should have done a better job choosing their parents. But it's a scary thought to think in the United States of America, what happens when you have a universe of people that simply because of how they were born, life options are set in a sense. And what happens unless they're given more opportunity or ability to improve their situation, regardless of the circumstances of how they were born. And I see that as sort of a clarion call for VISTA. Because again, for 50 years, you've shown how, but for this intervention, creating opportunities for young people or people of any age to improve their situation, these are needs that are going unmet. So, since this is my last event, sort of celebrating this wonderful program that has not only made a difference in the lives of people I've met as I've traveled the country, but made a difference in my life, growing up the second of 5 with a single mom, a special appreciation for what this program does. And I am so glad to, 51 years later, on the same day, celebrate and wrap up my tenure with AmeriCorps VISTA with all of you. And it's a real treat to be with you. Thank you so much. Happy birthday, VISTA.
had a very small team. It was a great organization, had been around for 17 years. And in fact, in the early days of our house, VISTA, or at that time, Delta Service Corps, was a huge part of our founding story. But for many years, we had not had service members, and our organization was really struggling financially. We were needing to limit programs. We had great visions for expansion, but we just didn't have the manpower to do that. I'm Georgia Miarton, and I'm the executive director here at Our House. I've been in that role for the last 10 years. Back in 2007, we had our first team of VISTA members who came and joined the Our House team. It was a really pivotal moment in the history of Our House. I remember, and I want to share with you the story of how it happened. Back in 2006, it was the first class of Clinton School of Public Service students. And there was a student named Joe Ballard. He came to me and said, I'd like to do my final project, my capstone project, in partnership with Our House. His idea was to do a project around evaluation and helping figure out ways to track the success of our clients. So he came on our team, spent a couple weeks out here, and very quickly he said, Georgia, you do not need one Clinton School student for a few months. You need a team of people to help you grow this organization, to not only do outcomes tracking, but help move homeless people into jobs, to help create programs for homeless children. You need so much more than what I can give you myself in just a few short months. And so Joe, as part of his Clinton School education, for his final project, he actually applied to VISTA for Our House to be a VISTA site. So the way that we became a VISTA site was through this partnership with the Clinton School of Public Service. Well, years later, like I said, that was 2006, moving into 2007, we had our first members. So here we are 8 years later, and not only have VISTA members had the life-changing experience of serving people in poverty, serving the homeless here at Our House, but they have made an impact on Our House, and an impact, more importantly, on the thousands of people who come through our doors, who come through our gates, on the thousands of homeless and near homeless families and individuals, a life-changing impact, an impact that will last for decades to come. So when I think about that moment when VISTA came on as a part of the Our House program, I think about that as a pivotal moment in the history of our organization. And I really give credit to VISTA and to all of the VISTA members. I give them credit for saving our organization. Look at Our House today, and I see that by the numbers we have quadrupled in budget size. We are serving 5 times more clients than we were at the beginning of our VISTA project. And I look at VISTA, and I look at the people who served as VISTA members. I look at the people who lived in poverty, who struggled to pay their rent, who went to food pantries to get food because they were sacrificially giving so that they could help Our House to help others. And I feel the deepest gratitude, not only to Opal and Derek and the wonderful VISTA program, but to each of those individual members who gave their time and their talents. We are grateful to those service members who gave. Thank you.
So here we are. We're 50 years old. Some of us can't get up as fast as we used to. I don't know if you're like me, you got to get up and stretch it out a little bit before you step off. Our back might hurt a little bit. And, you know, we can take time and give ourselves the well-deserved pat on the back, enjoy that good feeling we have in our stomach right now, but then we need to look forward and see that there are still challenges out there. There's still need out there. So although we've done 50 years, we're still young. We still got work to do. We still have things to do moving forward. So thank you guys for coming today. Before I close, I want to first thank the Clinton School, Dean Rutherford, for your graciousness hosting this program today. Nikolai working with Opal and helping us get this together. I want to I want to thank all of our members and project staff who participated in our videos. Everybody, please give Marcel with the Stand Foundation a round. He worked really hard getting these videos together up until like yesterday. So thank you, Marcel. And then just from me, I know we're here celebrating VISTAs, but right at the beginning of planning this, I went out sick for 2 months. And so Opal rallied the troops and put everything behind us. So I want us to thank her for doing this. So that is it. We thank you guys for coming. Don't forget, we have refreshments in the back. Paul Monteiro will be here if you want to come talk to him, ask questions. He'll be more than happy to interact with you. For our current members and our alumni, there will be volunteers over here to help you sort through this. I'm sorry.
I just want to specifically shout out to a couple of people. Of course, thank the Clinton School. They've been great. I mean, so gracious, so wonderful, and we really appreciate them hosting us today. I particularly want to thank the volunteers with the Stand Foundation and Our House. They put in, like Derek said, you know, we had 2 months to put this together, and we're a two-person office, and so down one, it was not an easy thing to do, and we would not have been able to pull this together without the staff from those 2 sites and the VISTA members. And I just want you to know that we really appreciate it, and thanks to everyone that participated in the video. We called folks at the last minute, and they said yes, yes. No one said no. And it's just a great feeling when you ask people to do things and they don't hesitate and come through for you. So thanks so much from the bottom of my heart.